How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another switch stance tutorial. In this one we're going to be covering the puneta, which looks like this, and we're also going to be covering one of my favorite switch stance sliding moves, the gazada. The main difference between the puneta and the gazada is the position of the takeoff. The rest of the move is very similar to one another, which is why we've grouped them together. But to start with, we're just going to cover the puneta, and then we'll come back to how to get into that gazada takeoff position. So to start with, what is a puneta? A puneta is actually a switch stance Spock, so actually we can relate a lot of the theory from the Spock into the puneta. If you haven't learned to Spock yet, I would really recommend this before you then come on to the puneta, as you need to learn how to pop first. For that, I've got a whole video on how to Vulcan and Spock. Click up here to watch that. But if you can already Spock, let's now go into the preparation for the puneta. For the preparation of the puneta then, what do we need? We obviously need to be able to go switch stance and carry as much speed as possible from that. Because we're going switch and we're not ducking the sail, the puneta is a really good move to learn before you start learning all your big power moves. Actually, the end of a burner, a scopu, a funnel is exactly the same as the ending as a puneta. So having the muscle memory from that is only going to help you once you learn these power moves. The last thing I would really recommend having is flat water for learning punetas. The reason being is you're going to be able to have a lot more speed and a lot more control when you're sliding around on the board. If you have chop, there's a more higher chance of you catching a rail. Even if you're in a choppy spot, try and find the flattest bit of water there so that you can do the slide in this undisturbed water. The angle we want to be sailing at can actually vary depending on how much power you have. For your first attempts, I would recommend going a little bit more downwind because you're going to have a lot more speed and then it's actually less rotation to complete. Once you've chosen your angle of sail, it's then time to put yourself in the best position for the puneta. Because it's a switch stance Spock, we're actually going to mirror a lot of the preparation for the Spock in the puneta. So what does that mean? We're going to move our front hand right to the boom clamp. Obviously, we're changing our hand around the mast, so putting our front hand there is going to give us the best chance of getting around the mast cleanly. We're also going to hang our weight down off the boom to create mast foot pressure in preparation for that pop. And of course, we're bringing our weight inboard over the center line so that we're keeping a nice flat, fast board, ready to pop and slide. Once you've done all three of these things and you're feeling nice and comfortable, it's time to take off. Once again, it's very similar to a Spock. So we're going to oversheet the sail so that we generate the rotation from the sail. Remember, like the Spock, it's really not about jumping our feet around. It's all about using the power in the sail to generate the rotation. If we start kicking our feet and trying to kick the board around, that is going to shift our body weight away from the center line, making it much more challenging to land the rest of the move. As we've oversheeted the sail, we're going to pop the board and release that power in the back hand while looking into the rotation. What that's going to do, it's going to open our body up and allow the board to rotate beneath us as well. As you're rotating around the start of the puneta, I want you to keep that sail moving the whole time like we were doing in the Spock. And as your body is coming around, the sail should be following your body around too. Remember, we want to be landing with our weight over our front leg so that we have the most stable possible slide. So keep that head over your front leg, and as you're doing this, try and switch your hands to the new side of the boom. The choice of how you want to switch your hands is really a personal preference. You can go boom to boom like I'm doing in this video, or you can go boom to the mast and help pull that sail across like you do sometimes in a Spock. At this point, you should be landing 180 degrees and you should have your hands on the new side of the boom. Now you can just sheet in and sail away here, and that's a half puneta, which is a good start, but we really want to be going for that puneta, so we're going to keep going through the rotation. In order to keep coming around this rotation then, we really need to push the nose of the board around and unlock the rail. To do this, we're going to keep our weight on our toes so that we keep the board flat and moving, sliding around smoothly. And we also want to encourage an angle on the mast so that we can push with the mast foot pressure the nose of the board around into the back-winded position. In order to do this, we're going to keep our front arm really nice and straight, and we're going to pull in with the back arm so that we can swipe the sail around with the nose of the board, and that will bring us into that back-winded position. From here, we're actually in the same position as the ducked position. So we're going to keep that front arm extended, we're going to keep pulling in with the back arm, and remember, look into the rotation. That's going to twist your body and your shoulders, your hips, and it's going to eventually put weight on your heels, which is then going to allow you to carve out of the end of the puneta, which, like I said at the start of the video, is the same as the funnel, the burner, and the scopu. Let's then recap some of those tips before we then go on to the gazada. So it's really important that we keep as much speed into the rotation as possible, and we use that sail on the takeoff to initiate the rotation, not our feet. Remember, once we get around to the new side of the sail, we want to push the nose of the board around with the angle of the mast. So keep that front arm extended and pulling in with the back arm. And finally, we're going to use our head throughout the whole rotation. Remember, looking where you want to go into the rotation is going to affect the rest of your body position. So make sure to look into the turn, and that will help encourage the board to rotate as well. Now that you've cracked that puneta, it's now time to move on to the gazada. Actually, for me, the gazada is an easier rotation once you're in that initial position, but obviously we need to get into that back to sail with our hands behind our back, and that's really the challenge. With the gazada, we're obviously changing this position, so we need to go into it with a lot of speed in order to still be carrying speed once we finally get into that position. For this, we want to keep the sail as still as possible so that we maintain the power in it, keeping it sheeted in as much as possible. The key is to bring your front hand really close to your body so that you can slide your back hand up to replace it before quickly rotating around, and your front hand becomes your new backhand. Now for me, the real difference is to go underhand grip. If you try and go overhand, it's a really difficult, awkward position, and it can be really hard to reach the boom. Try and go underhand, and then as soon as you've got both hands on the boom, straighten them to lock out the sail. This whole process needs to happen really quickly, otherwise you're going to be losing lots of speed, and if you have to reach for the sail with your backhand more than once, it's likely that you won't have enough speed to continue once you get into that position. Once you're here and you're locked out in that gazada position, as long as you've got enough wind, you can hold this position for quite a while before you then take off. Once we're in this gazada position and we're ready to take off, the principles become exactly the same as the puneta. We still want to oversheet the sail by pulling around with the backhand, and actually what helps me with this is to look over my shoulder already into the turn. You see how that shifts my body around, naturally oversheet the sail as I pop so that I can then rotate around, and my front arm, it should already be locked out straight, swinging the sail around. Once you land here, you're then back holding the sail, having rotated 180, and the rest is exactly the same as the puneta. The gazada is a super stylish move and will definitely turn a lot of heads when people see you in switch stance with your hands behind your back. So definitely give it a go, because I really think it's a much more achievable move than everybody thinks. That's it then, guys, for the puneta and the gazada, two really fun sliding moves that I think you guys should definitely add to your repertoires. So make sure to give them a go, and I look forward to seeing some of your attempts. If you like this style of video and the tutorial stuff, make sure to comment what tutorials you want to see next. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video.